I'm part of the team that will be coordinating this webinar this evening, and I hope we are going to all have a productive time together. As we had mentioned together earlier on the chat, that you're invited to say hello to everyone. You're invited to let us know where you're joining us from. But right about now, we will be starting off with an activity where we will set this conversation going and just hear your thoughts and throwing all our voices into the conversation, even as we look forward to hearing from the speakers of the day. And so, even as we continue to do that, I'll just drop a link on the chat. And even as everyone else continues to join, I'll be sharing my screen and we can chat. So, feel most welcome. Sorry, I have sent in a link on the chat to the Slido platform. And so if you're able to get a hold of the link, you can log in through the link. I'll also share my screen so that those of you who would prefer to log in using the QR code can also do that. And we can begin to talk. So let me just share my screen right away. For those who are joining us, feel most welcome. You can say hello. We have shared the link to our Slido chat where we'll be adding our voices to the conversation. If you're able to use the links, you can do so. But if not, please feel free to do so from this point. Great, I can see a good number of us have gotten the hang of it already. In case you're not on the chat yet, on the Slido page, feel free to scan the QR code. You can also use the code given there as the hashtag. And the question we are asking is that as a digital climate change advocate, from wherever you are, what is that one digital tool that has empowered or improved your advocacy, that has come in quite handy for you? I can see a few of us have already said sharing theirs. LinkedIn is on the lead. A few of us are saying Instagram. Some are saying Canva. For others, it is CapCut, social media in general. Some are saying Facebook. The laptop, whoever is saying the laptop, it would be interesting to know what exactly in your laptop is coming in handy in your advocacy, right? Someone has shared that they're ready to learn, and I believe you're really going to learn quite a bit during this conversation in terms of what digital tools are available to you, and how are you able to leverage them in your advocacy. I can see there is X. Almost all social media platforms are featuring conferences, your phone, YouTube, Twitter, Coursera. That's an interesting one. TikTok is represented. Webinars like this one, quite true. Google Suite, podcasts, LinkedIn still on the lead. Instagram and Canva coming in quite closely. So keep sharing. What is that one digital tool that has done the magic for you? And we will keep seeing that here. And so in view of time, so that we also get started with the main program, I'll be inviting our main moderator for the evening to just take it up from here and invite us to this webinar, introduce what we are all about, who is running this, and then bring to us the speakers of the evening. And so, Anne, if you're able to, you can take it away. Thank you.
So much, Emma, for that engaging session. That was really lovely. Hello, everyone, from where you're joining from. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Anne. I'm the communications lead at Aspire Climate Vanguard and your host for this session. So today we're going to explore how digital storytelling and movement building can shift narratives and create lasting climate impact across Africa, which is actually part of our mission here at ACV to support African creatives to tell the climate stories that matter. So firstly, I will give an overview of the ACCF, then we'll have our keynote speakers who will cover the theme building and scaling digital advocacy movements. And then after that, we'll have a breakout session for discussions, which will be followed by a panel discussion where we'll cover digital campaign strategies, donor funding, and digital climate activism. Thereafter, we'll have the Q&A segment, so you can all keep your questions coming, and they will be covered at the tail end of the session. And before I dive into what SACF encompasses, feel free to post on social media, share your insights about the webinar using the hashtag ACCF2025, and remember to tag us on LinkedIn and on other platforms as well. A point to note is that a certificate of completion will be issued to participants. So let's all be actively engaged till the end of the session. So about ACCF, the African Climate Creatives Fellowship is a transformative Pan-African program aimed at equipping and empowering young climate activists to become the new wave of climate storytellers and digital advocates that Africa needs to shift narratives, influence policy, and drive action across the continent. Now, with that, I'm honored to introduce our key speakers of the day, Mariam and Nival Rehman, who will be taking us through the theme Building and Scaling Digital Advocacy Movements. Mariam and Nival Rehman are twin activists and storytellers with over 15 years of experience working on issues ranging from gender equality, climate justice, and human rights issues across borders. Currently, they work on these issues through their nonprofit organization, which is the MNR Foundation, and their storytelling company, Stories at the Table. So, Mariam and Nival, welcome. The floor is yours. Mariam and Nival, if you can hear me.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, we were unable to unmute ourselves. Thank you so much for having us, and welcome everyone to this important session of the Africa Climate Creatives Fellowship. We're really thrilled to be here today to introduce you to our work and also give you some tips about how you can carry forward your own digital advocacy movements and work within this space, particularly for climate justice. We're going to try to share our screen. Hopefully we do have access. We're sending a request right now. So as soon as we have access, we're going to share our screen to our slides and get started. I think because the other screen is being shared, we're not able to.
Okay, just a moment, Mariam and Nival. Okay, there you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So we're sharing our screen now, and okay. All right. So just to get started, we're going to introduce a little bit about what our session is going to be about. The first section will be about our own journey and experiences within digital advocacy, as well as starting our own digital advocacy movement, particularly within the climate space. And then we're going to follow up with some key lessons and strategies that you all can use. And then finally share some challenges and opportunities, especially within mobilization of diverse audiences within this space. So just to get started, we started our own advocacy journey in our village in Pakistan when we were just 8 years old. It's been many years since we got started, but when we began our work, we recognized that there was a lot of issues within our own community, and we felt that we could take action as well. Our methods of taking action and the way in which we've done our advocacy has changed tremendously, but I think one thing that has stayed consistent with us since we were 8 years old is this idea that we ourselves can be making a difference in our own community, and we can't just wait for other people to be making a difference. And our work actually started because we saw that there was girls in our community that wanted to continue their education but were unable to due to poverty and other challenges that their family members were facing. And we started by really emphasizing the need for them to continue their education past grade 5 when a lot of girls were dropping out of school. And we worked with the teachers in the community and other community members to make sure that the financial barriers that girls were facing were reduced in terms of accessing their education. So while that's where our journey began when we were 8 years old, we then expanded to working on a lot of other issues, especially within Pakistan, but also in Canada, where our family moved to. And that included the right to a healthy environment, the need for climate justice for Indigenous communities here in Canada, as well as around the world as well, especially because climate change and education are interconnected issues. They don't exist in silos, and we found that a lot of the girls in our village that were facing issues in terms of accessing their education related to financial barriers, for example, then went on to have limited access to education because of climate change, global warming, other issues like that. And so we worked to, address all of these issues in an interconnected way. We also realized that storytelling is such a powerful tool to get people on board, to make them aware about what's going on in Pakistan. And we started by sharing in the clubs that we were part of at school, and we would share more about our journeys and what we were doing. And some of our teachers and people who we were talking to told us that it would be great if you could share the videos of what you were doing in person, because we would just take videos on our own. And they said that it would be great if you were able to share this with the world and sort of amplify the work that you're doing to a larger audience. And that would raise awareness about what's going on, but also help address some of these challenges. And so we launched the World with MNR in 2016, and that's our digital advocacy movement that has grown tremendously since then. And we started off quite small. We had, I think, maybe like 16 subscribers on our YouTube channel initially, and it was dedicated to raising awareness about the problems that exist in the world and also telling people and making them aware of ways that they could help. So we started that, and our first initiative that we did was going to the Social Good Summit in New York City. The picture of it is right over here, up here. And that was something where we had a vision in mind, and we knew exactly what we wanted to do with this platform. And even with just our 16 subscribers, we were so grateful that we were accepted into the Digital Media Lounge and were able to cover such a prestigious event. And that sort of got us our footing in the journalism space and in the storytelling space. And we've only grown from there and learned so much over the years. And we'll share some of the lessons that we've gotten with all of you in today's session. Yeah, absolutely. And just to add on to this as well, I think a really important aspect of our journey and in terms of growing our current movement was collaborating with other organizations and simply just reaching out to them and letting them know about our work, and also asking for collaboration like opportunities. So for example, whether it was hosting an event at our school or collaborating on a video or whatever that looked like, I think one of the most important lessons that you all can take away from our journey was even if it seems like, your platform isn't that big or someone else has a bigger platform, if you have a mission and you have an idea of what you want to do, and you just reach out to the organizations that you want to work with or the other young people that you want to collaborate with, it can take you really, really far. And that's what we did, especially at the beginning and going on as well. And what started off as us reaching out to people, eventually as our platform grew, people started reaching out to us as well and continuing those collaborations that way. And we'll continue to give you examples of our work too, but specifically on growing our own platform, The World with MNR, we initially started off as just a storytelling tool. So like we use social media, and as we discussed, like in the Slido, we saw like a lot of people discussing how social media has been crucial to their climate advocacy work. And The World with MNR was our way of using social media to raise awareness about a lot of these issues. We started off with a focus on just girls' education education, climate justice, and inclusivity. And then we also started expanding to covering a lot of human rights issues, political issues, because we felt that they were interconnected with a lot of the climate justice issues that we were seeking to address. And we focused mainly on Pakistan, Canada, Kashmir, the issues that we are most familiar with and have the most knowledge on. And then we found that our platform was the way that we were really able to mobilize people was by sharing information about issues that they weren't receiving from traditional media sources. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, for example, there are a lot of political challenges that individuals face, especially within the activism space. And what we find is that our media platforms are not talking about a lot of the issues that young people want them to address because of a number of challenges that the country faces. But what we found was that by talking about the human rights issues in the country and also raising awareness about different news updates on climate change and other issues as they came up, we were starting to fill a gap that a lot of young people felt that the traditional media sources and platforms were not giving to them. And so they weren't receiving the information from traditional media outlets. And so they were turning to social media, not just our platform, obviously, but a lot of other individuals as well for their sources of information. And that really helped us mobilize a lot of people because we were doing the research and raising awareness about the issues that other people were not. And so by becoming a source of information as well as actionable resources, we were able to engage thousands of young people around the world through the World with MNR. I think the most important part about doing digital advocacy is not just raising awareness, but also giving people a way to take action. And that's really where your platform can turn from being just a source of information to an actual movement that inspires action. I think, unfortunately, we have a big gap inside the way that we receive information, whether it's on social media or on traditional media sources. And then also the organizations that are doing work on the ground. When people receive information, whether it's about climate change or other human rights abuses, you find that news outlets will just be sharing the information about what's going on, and they will leave people with a sense of apathy sometimes or despair about, there's a lot of these challenges that are happening in the world, and what can people do to help? There's no information that people are receiving. So we wanted our platform to do the opposite of that and actually provide both information about what's going on in the world and what the issues are, but also what people can do to help. So now we'll move into some of the lessons and strategies that we've learned throughout this time and how you can apply them into your movements, whether they look like this, whether they're a social media page or you're running a campaign in collaboration with another organization, or whatever that looks like in your context and in the work that you're doing in your community. So our first strategy or lesson is finding your cause. It's, there's so many different issues that exist in the world, and as we came to discover, you can't address these issues in silos because often they're interconnected. For example, climate change is directly connected to girls' education in our village in Pakistan, and we can't address one thing without acknowledging or addressing the other. But it's important to start with one thing and identify the issue area that you're most passionate about and sort of center your movement based on that, and then expand and look at accompanying issues that also impact this issue and how you can build solutions that are intersectional, that are cognizant of all these different aspects or facets of the issue. But it is important to identify your cause and sort of focus on one thing, while again recognizing that there are other aspects of this issue too. So that's really important, finding your center and finding what your key area of focus is, and then collaborating with others on issues that may intersect. But it's important for you to identify your main cause. We then have identifying and combining your skills. So one of the things that we did at the beginning was we recognized that we really care about girls' education. And in terms of taking action for it, we worked with a lot of organizations, and we obviously worked in our village in Pakistan too, hosting our workshops and connecting with teachers, students, their family members. But we also realized that in order to raise awareness about this, our skill or our talent, something that we were passionate about, was storytelling. We really loved photography, videography, and eventually we turned that into something that through which we're able to amplify our work on social media. But we recognized that we're passionate about taking action for girls' education. That was our cause, and we combined it with our skill, which was storytelling, and we created a path for us to be able to take action for this issue as a result. And it really worked out well for us because we were able to stay committed to this cause and continue growing, learning, improving the work that we were creating because we stuck to two main things, our cause and the things that we were passionate about or what our skills were. And I know that in this space, a lot of you are already storytellers and are working within this space already. So we would say recognize and identify whatever skill within this space is most, resonates most with you. For us, it happened to be photography and videography or filmmaking, but for you all, it can be writing, it can be whether it's videography, photography, whatever that looks like, and just within this space, whatever skill of yours resonates most or you've already become familiar with, you don't have to learn something new to be able to pursue your advocacy within the digital space. You can just build off of the skills that you already have and combine them with the cause that you care about in order to build the foundations of your movement. We then have doing your research. Being well informed about the issue that you're advocating for is something that is so, so crucial. We don't only have like our years of lived experience that inform how we do our work or how we approach these issues. We also have years and years of our education behind us, and that's really important, especially when we're advocating for things like human rights issues, because often these are things that are really contentious for a lot of people, and there's lots of debates around them, and there's different perspectives that come up. And so the really big tool that you have in countering sort of the opposing voices or recognizing that what you're saying is right, or if you are saying something that's not accurate, like being able to recognize that and also address those issues, the best thing that you can do is doing your research and being well informed. We've spent now over 5 years researching and establishing our knowledge on the human rights issues that we care about through our formal education in university. And so many research projects every class that we would take, we would always make sure that the research that we were doing was related to Kashmir, so we got to look at it from so many different angles, and that equips us against any sort of hate comments that come our way, or if there's constructive feedback and criticism, we're able to apply that back into our research and become better advocates as a result. So this is such a awesome weapon that you have in your toolkit to be able to improve your storytelling, to be able to improve the quality of the work that you're sharing, and make sure that you're not reinforcing the same issues that you're advocating against, and making sure that your voice is actually a catalyst for positive change instead of, for example, reinforcing ideas that may be harmful to the communities that you're working for, even if you're a part of that community like we are. So that's something that's been so central to our work, and we recommend that no matter what type of storytelling that you're pursuing, whether it's poetry, photography, if you're really good at speeches and public speaking, whatever that storytelling format looks like, it's important to be backed up by strong research and really knowing your cause well. And obviously you can't know everything about it at all times, and it's a learning process and it comes with a lot of growth, but making sure that you're staying connected to this and keeping this up as you go is essential, and it will only make your advocacy better. Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of recommendations for how to do your research, I think we've recognized, especially within this climate space, but also human rights space, that mainstream news outlets, unfortunately, often do not portray the whole picture about a lot of these issues, and so it's important to also complement your research with information that is coming out from on the ground from citizen journalists, but also scholarly journal articles, books. There's a variety of sources that you can use to make your research more well informed, and so that's also something that we recommend, that you get your information about the causes that you're advocating for and also that you're raising awareness about within your digital advocacy movement. You get that information from a variety of sources as well. We then have building your network. This was something that was so crucial for us at the beginning. Obviously, when we were doing our work, we were just focused on our community itself. When we came back to Canada, we made sure that we were involved with so many different clubs and sort of building support in the community members that we knew for the causes that we were advocating for. So, getting fellow students on board, getting teachers, and getting people that they knew on board with the work that we were doing. And that was it just continued to support us throughout. So when we first applied for the Social Good Summit, we were so grateful to be included. And then when we were there, we were trying to meet as many people as we could and sort of learning from the journalists that were there, the organizational representatives, and we're still connected to people that we met there to this day. And they've been such crucial parts of our journey and in supporting our work. And so building your network, even if it's small right now, is super important, because you're building allies for your movement. And we can't do these things alone. Often our oppressors are, they collaborate so strongly, and there's so many different ways that they reinforce oppression against us, and that makes it that much more important for us to collaborate and for us to join forces, support each other. And this is where it also comes in. If your cause is focused on one thing, but you have a friend or you have a community member focusing on a different facet of this cause or a related cause really well, offer your support to them as well. And that's a big part of building your network, is offering your support and then getting it back and building those opportunities for collaboration and making sure that we're building strong, united networks rooted in solidarity and, community collaboration. And that's just such an important part. And that community collaboration can look, it's in your local community, but it can also be transnational and transcend borders in spaces like this that we're in right now too. Yeah, absolutely. And some crucial tools that, again, we're referencing the Slido at the beginning. A lot of people mentioned LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a really great place to obviously meet with new people, connect with them. In addition to that, Instagram or other social media tools. As you're building your digital advocacy movement, you can really, use these tools to your advantage in terms of learning about other activists who are within your space who are doing similar work, gaining advice from them or also gaining support from them. I think that unfortunately the climate space can also be a little bit separated at times, especially when we're dealing with so many challenges in our own communities. But it's really, really important to connect with each other and also learn from each other so that we can create different, we can apply solutions that may have worked somewhere else and adapt them and apply them to our own communities too. There's a lot of really great opportunities that we can build that way. When we were doing our work, we were really able to apply the work that some of our other friends were doing in other parts of the world to our own communities as well, and also apply them to our digital advocacy efforts too. So I think it's really important to not only build your network, but also learn from other people who are doing similar work, and that can really, really help you as you get started within your digital advocacy journey. Next, we have being consistent. If you're trying to build a movement or you're trying to build a digital advocacy space, especially on social media, consistency is so key. Sometimes, we spend so much effort on the post that we're making, or we're making a video or produce a documentary, whatever that looks like, and it doesn't get the traction that we want right away. But that doesn't mean that you should stop. There's always going to be someone who's listening to what you have to say, even if it's 5 people, 10 people. I think on social media, the bigger the numbers are, the more we feel that our work is having an impact. But that's not necessarily true, because you could have 1 million people look at what you have to say, but none of them take action. Or you could have a small, really committed community of, say, 50 to 100 people, and they're always, signing the petitions that you're sharing, or if you have any sort of other actions, they're always taking it. So the important part is to be consistent and build your community, no matter how small it is, turning it into a committed community that actually responds to the work that you're doing and is there for you when you need it. That is more important, and being consistent will translate well and help you build that community, because you're giving them a constant source of information. You are giving them access to tools and resources based on things that are going around you, and people know that they can rely on you for this information. And that's sort of the trust that you want to build with your community, especially as you're building a digital movement. And consistency is such a critical part of that aspect of movement building. Yeah, and I think sometimes it can be hard to have motivation as you're getting started, and you may not. Again, it's really important to put into perspective who the people are who are viewing your work. When we see numbers on social media, 10 people may not seem like a lot, but if you put 10 people into a room, you can really see the impact that you're having. So that really helped us in terms of putting into perspective the impact that we were having, especially from the beginning of our journey. And it takes a long time to grow a movement, but I think as long as you're staying consistent, you will see it expand eventually. And if you're following the other tips that we mentioned in terms of growing your network and all of these types of things, I think that will really help you as you continue to grow. We started the World Webinar almost 10 years ago. So we started in 2016. Next year is going to mark 10 years since we started. And for many of the initial years that we got started, we were not getting a lot of views. We weren't, reaching a lot of people. struggle. But now that we've stayed consistent and again like built trust with this community that we have, now our content will reach like millions of people at a time, because of the consistency, also providing well-researched information, and also being a source of information that provides valuable information to people too, not just making them despair after looking at the issues that are going on in the world. And that brings us to our next point, which is when you provide people something of value, that's how you will really grow your platform as well as your movement. And audiences are critical in your digital advocacy work. So even though digital advocacy can take on a variety of forms, undoubtedly social media is one of the best tools that you can use to grow your digital advocacy movement. And in order to reach a larger audience on social media, what we've discovered is audiences come to your social media platforms, or they grow when your platform is providing resources or valuable information to them. So that always looks like, one, providing well-researched information, as we were mentioning, but also two, providing them something that they can take away with it and actually apply to their own lives. So for example, if you're talking about a climate justice issue within your own community, it's always important to end with a call to action at the end of the content that you're sharing or the post that you're sharing, so that people feel like, okay, I've learned about this really important issue that's happening in this individual's community. How can I help? By signing this petition or joining this community cleanup or whatever that looks like. And I think that is really crucial in terms of providing value and growing your platform that way. We'll end off with sort of the challenges and opportunities and recognizing how this is not necessarily an easy process, but the ways that you can overcome it, and sort of recapping what we've discussed so far. So first of all, progress can be slow. I think for the first 6 or 7 years of us growing this platform, we had really low views and we were really slowly building our community, but we knew that those 100, 200, 300 people who were looking at our content were really engaged, and we could tell that they were sort of really committed to what we were talking about, and they were responding well. So we didn't take it as like, okay, we need to stop now and we can't contribute to this movement anymore and we're not having an impact. We kept on going. And it can be difficult to find your community network and your audience right away. But again, that consistency and all the tips that we shared are crucial in that process, because digital media is still one of the most powerful tools we have to mobilize people for our advocacy efforts. So just because your audience is small doesn't mean that we should give up this amazing tool and stop taking advantage of it. And if you continue connecting with like-minded individuals and organizations and support each other, you can expand your initiatives together. And so, especially at the beginning, we had so many amazing organizations and other youth that we were connecting with. And again, we're connected with them and their organizations to this day. And it's such a beautiful relationship that we have with them, in which we support their work and they support ours, and we're able to really grow our grassroots actions and the community actions that we're taking together. And then improving your storytelling skills and outputs regularly. I think our content from 10 years ago is vastly different from the content that we have today, but through a process of trial and error and really going at it, we were prepared to sort of improve our content, improve our skills, and grow professionally as well in this space, and really improve the quality of our content as a result. Yeah, absolutely. And one final thing before we end off here, we want to say that the first step that you all are taking by building your own movements, but also being in this space here today with the Aspire Climate Vanguard, that's a really, really great step that you're already taking to be able to further your movements. And these are exactly the types of spaces and organizations that you should be connected to in order to grow your skills, grow your network. And the Climate Creatives Fellowship is also a really, really great opportunity to learn from experts who are working within this space, improve your skills, and also eventually grow your movements. So we're going to stop sharing our screen here. Thank you all so much for listening. Apologies if we were speaking a little bit fast. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Wow, Mariam and Nival, thank you so much for taking us through your journey, sharing the great insights with us, and for the affirmation that ACV is the place to grow your voice. My key takeaway from that session has been opportunities and partnerships are so important in trying to leverage the digital advocacy space. So we can keep commenting in the chat box and just say what your key learning or takeaway was. Now, for the next session, we shall be breaking into groups where each group will be discussing a topic, which I'll talk about. And this session will take 15 minutes. Each room will have a moderator who will be guiding the discussions. And in case there won't be a moderator within the first, say, 2 minutes of joining the group, you can continue with the discussions, making sure most people, if not everyone, participates. And then each group should have a representative who will then come and speak about what they discussed afterwards. So please make sure you engage, share your thoughts, and have fun while at it. Yeah. So on your screen shows a topic that we'll be going to discuss in the groups, and that is, as an African climate activist, what challenges and opportunities do you think digital platforms provide for climate advocacy, and why do you believe these have not been fully exploited in your context? Yeah, so this session is going to take 15 minutes, and yeah, I believe that you've all had insightful discussions. So now we're going to hear what each group got to discuss. Yeah, so starting with group one, the representative of the group can share what the discussions are all about, and then we can all engage. A point to remember, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box, and then we can all get to, the questions will all get to be answered at the end of the, at the tail end of the session. So group one representative, you can go ahead.
Good day, everybody. I hope everyone is good. My name is Celine Muzarabani from Zimbabwe. I was in the first breakout room, and from the question that was asked, this is some of the things that we discussed. The question was talking about how, as an African climate advocate, digital platforms present a unique set of challenges and opportunities for climate advocacy. And this is what we believe or we discussed about. We spoke about capacity building and knowledge sharing. But I will start with cybersecurity risks and online harassment, which is the first thing that we basically discussed, especially in context of Ghana. We spoke about how climate advocates, particularly those challenging powerful interests and those bringing up climate advocacy, can be vulnerable to online harassment and cyber attacks, which can deter participation and also stifle free expression, even as they do everything that they do. And then we also spoke about basically spoke about lack of we spoke about contextual relevance and cultural appropriateness. We spoke about how generic digital advocacy campaigns may not always resonate with the local communities due to maybe a lack of cultural sensitivity and understanding of specific local challenges of priorities. We spoke about how, in as much as it's a digital space, it's got so many people with so many cultures. We gave an example of Ghana. Somebody gave an example of Ghana. I was going to give an example of Zimbabwe, of how it is so diverse culturally, and it's important to include and keep in mind that we have to have relevancy in terms of culture and contextual appropriateness. We spoke about language barriers and how Africa is incredibly diverse with languages. So while some of the content can be translated, ensuring climate messages get to everybody, it's important to also translate them and also make sure that we put them across so many hundreds of languages and dialects, so that we ensure that the effort is significant and as significant as we want it to be. We also spoke about how we want to engage, or how it's important for us to engage the public figures, but then the fundraising and resource mobilization is sometimes not enough for the organizations that take up these climate initiatives, especially for grassroots organizations. They lack a lot of traditional funding resources or funding sources, and this is where the other challenges are. We spoke also, I'm sorry, I'm just really trying to be fast so that I'm within the time. I hope everybody can hear me. We spoke about direct engagement with policymakers and stakeholders. We spoke about how social media platforms offer avenues for direct engagement with government officials, international organizations, and corporate leaders, and it allows advocates to present their concerns and demands and directly say out their views publicly. We spoke about data collection and storytelling. Somebody briefly touched on that when they were talking about how digital tools can be used to collect data. And we can do this at a grassroots level so that we ensure that data is collected or stories are collected in real time. This is capacitating the people that are affected at grassroots level so that they also know how to collect stories so that we can have compelling stories that speak to everybody. So I think that's basically, in a nutshell, we discussed a whole lot of things, but in a nutshell, that is basically what we talked about and came up with as a group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celine, for being the representative and for sharing the summary. Those were great insights. And to the other group representatives, please note you only have 3 minutes to sort of sum up everything that was discussed. And now on to group 2.
Hello everyone, I am Uma, a representative of Group 2. And okay, in our group, we talk in the opportunity. The opportunity, we say the platform that TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn allow young advocates to reach large audiences beyond their local community, even without traditional media. This is an opportunity of climate action and education. Digital tools help us simplify complex climate issues and engaging the youth with visual storytelling and data. And we can easily connect with other advocates, funders, and organizations across Africa and globally. And we talk about the challenges. The challenges in Africa is many Africa country access to smartphone or data, reality, internet remain it, but and language. Language is a lot content in digital resources in Africa are in English or French. Inclusive that first you speak only local language. It is very difficult to share the message and the local language. And lack a digital skill, many climate advocates and powerful stories lack training in content creation, social media strategy, or digital safety. And we answer the question why they haven't been fully exploited. Because many initiatives still focus on offline activities, while digital tools are seen or secondary or inaccessible. Also, without structured training or funding, digital climate communication often stay limited to elite or even youth. And in our group, a member share a pretty story in Nigeria of a girl, Aisha. It is a very interesting. I don't have time for share all story, but after I am excited to share in this all. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Omar, for sharing those insights from group 2, group 3.
Hello, everyone. My name is Faith Bogoro. From Nigeria, and I was in the group 3 breakout room. We talked about the opportunities available for African climate advocates, their challenges, and are the opportunities fully utilized, and what's hindering us from utilizing all the opportunities. First, we talk about for the opportunities, we agreed that there is a global reach and visibility for all, and with the availability of digital tools, social media, we can actually tell our stories and we can be heard around the world, and people can get to know what our movement is all about and lend their voices or support or support the cause. Also, we talked about as an opportunity that digital tools has presented. We said they are cost effective. We can actually spend little using digital tools as compared to traditional media and reach a wider audience. And thirdly, for the opportunities we talked about, opportunities of collaboration and partnership. We can partner with global forums and NGOs that are interested in things we are trying to amplify. Then for the challenges, we said we agreed that there's a digital divide. There are communities, for instance, in Nigeria where there are no digital connection in those communities, like the internet. There's no internet connection in those communities. We also talked about how either very low or completely shut down availability of internet is in those communities. We talked about language barriers. In Nigeria, there are over 250 languages, for instance, and getting to translate whatever we're talking in these languages is a whole lot and a very big challenge, and also cost effective as well. And we talked about low funding. There are people or
Wait,
African
sorry to cut
advocates.
you short, but I think our time is running short. Thank you so much for those insights that you've shared. Allow us to go to group 4. Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes, we
great.
can hear you.
Oh, is there a representative for group 4?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Senda Jason. I think my group representative, she's out. She was a lady, but with our group, what we discussed opportunities for various. We talked of mobilization and youth engagement. We also talked about education and awareness rising, networking and collaboration, advocates across different African countries and even globally to connect, and then holding power accountable, where we discussed digital tools can be used to monitor and report environmental degradation, track government commitments, and campaign for strong climate policies and their enforcement. We also, the last opportunity that we talked about was showcasing African innovation through digital platforms, because there are a lot of communities that have been developing projects that are very innovative. And we could, because of digital platform, we can showcase our skills. And the challenges we talked about was the digital dividends, where there is a barrier to internet connection. A lot of communities lack electricity, language and content relevance, where a lot of African communities, especially some countries, they do not use English as their official language, and also resource constraints. And we also talked about misinformation and disinformation that come from different platforms. We also, the last part that we discussed were why these have not been fully exploited. We talked of capacity and skill gaps, where we even talked about it's because there are no investment in building the digital advocacy capacity for Africans. And we also talked of the importance that's aspiring that climate and this ACCF fellowship that is going to offer in terms of closing this gap. Thank you.
So much, Jason, for that. And thank you to all the representatives for sharing their insights on what was discussed in the groups. Now, on to the next session. It's a panel discussion, and we are going to have 3 panelists. And the first one we have is Elise Doris. Elise Doris is a communications and engagement specialist focused on sustainability and climate advocacy across sectors. She serves as deputy lead of the APN Sustainability Interest Network, supports youth engagement in UNFCCC processes through Yango TV, and led communications for the African Youth Mobilization for COP campaign. Elite Doris uses storytelling, media, and strategy to amplify underrepresented voices and advance inclusive, lasting climate action. Yeah, so before I go on to the next panelist, so maybe we can all, for the panelists, we can all turn on our videos so that we can proceed. Great. So the second panelist of today, we have Samuel A. Ajala. Samuel Ajala is a science communication researcher and journalist focused on climate change, energy transition, and sustainability in Africa. He has contributed to outlets like Table Media and Gas Outlook, and was a 2022 Media Fellow at the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue and Future News Worldwide. A graduate student at the University of Arkansas, he co-founded Solar 360, a media tech platform using journalism, data, and advocacy to advance climate action and multilingual access across Africa. The third panelist of the day, we have Farida Mbabazi. Mbabazi Farida is a Ugandan climate activist and journalist advancing environmental justice through storytelling, advocacy, and community empowerment. She amplifies frontline voices, reports on climate realities, and supports environmental defenders. With a focus on sustainability and resilience, she uses journalism to inform, influence policy, and inspire action towards a more just and inclusive future in Uganda and the global south. So that's it about our panelists. And I'm going to start with Samuel. Samuel, are you here?
Yes, yeah.
Great. Samuel, in your experience, what makes a digital campaign not just viral, but truly transformational in the climate space? Samuel, can you hear me? Samuel, can anyone? Okay, hi, Samuel.
Oh, yeah, so can you take that again?
Sorry?
Can you take the question again?
Great. In your experience, what makes the digital campaign not just viral, but truly transformational in the climate space?
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. Thank you for the invite. So I'm going to hinge on just 3 things. One, I'll talk about objective I'll talk about audiences, and I'll talk about strategy. Based on my experience and research, these are um, should I say strategy, campaign strategy that actually works and are transformational. So now talking about objective, I would say that when you want to run a digital campaign, the first question you need to ask is that what exactly do you want to accomplish? Yeah, you need to like create a sort of demand. What are you looking at achieving? Like what issues basically do you want to tackle? Yeah, is it a local issue? Is it an urban issue? Yeah, you need to set out your objective. Yeah, because when you have an objective, it's something that actually gives you what to focus on, and it helps you set a target, and at the same time know how you can be able to um, know the necessary stakeholders or resources, or community you need to mobilize to actually, achieve your digital campaign. So number two, I'll talk about audiences. And so for that, I would say that what you need to have in mind for that is that when you talk about audiences, yeah, we're talking about communication messages and and strategy basically. So you need to ask yourself like what specific digital media tool do I want to use? Yeah, what's the medium? Yeah, what's the medium you actually intend to use? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat? All these messages platform, actually have different messaging dynamics. Yeah, you need to like be able to understand the dynamics. Like, when you have an objective that's set out for your campaign strategy, so it's easier for you to determine, okay, based on this strategy, and based on my audiences, how am I able to like tailor my message to actually, suit my audiences and also, to achieve my campaign goals. How am I able to mobilize support, that can be able to demand for accountability and all of that. And so lastly, I'll talk about strategy. For strategy, I would say that, basically, how can you use your messaging to actually persuade people? Yeah, that's what I'll say about strategy. Because you need to be able to act on your objective that has been set out, and your messaging is actually very key when you want to achieve that. Because definitely, like, you need to develop a strategy that can be able to influence decisions, make us to deliver the objective that you actually set out. So as a storyteller, basically, these are the strategy I usually use, and it's something that has worked for me over time. As a journalist, going to local communities to tell stories and get to publish stories and getting to also share the stories on different messaging platforms, so people can be able to have access to it, and we can also be able to reach out to the necessary stakeholders we intend to reach with our messages. So that's what I'll say for now. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Samuel, for taking us through the strategies and tools that can sort of enable us to leverage our digital campaign strategies. And now to Elite Doris, what do funders look for in climate-related digital campaigns or storytelling initiatives?
Would you like to repeat that again, please?
What do funders look for in climate-related digital campaigns or storytelling initiatives?
Great, thank you. First of all, I want to say I'm really honored to be on this panel and to give back and sort of share my experiences. So when it comes to donors or funders, what they're looking out for is alignment. So what your messaging, what messages you're putting out there, does it align with their values? How would that trickle down to their broader scheme and maybe business objectives? So if you're able to make that connection as to what you're trying to drive at and how that could somehow trickle down to what they're trying to achieve, and sort of make that collaboration between the two teams and see how you can put on a united front in delivering what you want to do. So if you're able to show that what you're trying to put out there, your purpose is aligned with what they're trying to do, they'll be forward in trying to help you or support in whatever capacity that's needed. So it's finding that meeting point, and once you're able to establish that, you can leverage on that to be able to foster relationships with funders.
Wow, thank you, Elite Doris. Farida, what inspired you to blend digital tools with climate advocacy, and how has your online voice evolved over time?
Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you so much, everyone who has joined, to the panelists and everyone here. I have a story that inspired me into activism, and also that inspired me to use my digital platform as an activist. Years ago, as I was a 9-year-old girl in 2009, I come from a district that affected by climate change. We had a drought that went over 4 months, and we had no access to clean water. We had no food. Dams dried, rivers dried. We had no source of water everywhere. I lost my best friend. May her soul rest in peace. She didn't make it because of hunger during that period. So I used to ask it in my head. I actually used to tell it to my mom, and I was like, if I get a chance maybe to get education, because at that time I wasn't so sure that I could go to school. We lost a lot. We are cattle keepers. We lost cattle. Actually, our president of Uganda, his farm is not far across from our farm. But during that drought, he also lost a number of cows, over like 60 cows. But to my surprise, this story didn't come out. So we kept on experiencing this kind of drought, and I badly wanted to know what is the reason behind it. I tried to search on internet maybe to have an idea of what happened in 2009, and I didn't find it anywhere. So I kept on telling myself, if I get a chance to go to school, I'll be a journalist. And if I be a journalist, I'll try to bring out these stories. Because I was a 9-year-old girl who survived death with my family, and some of my aunties died because of hunger, but it is not anywhere. So if I don't come out to speak or to put it out, it means very many people will be left out, just like me. So we received some government aid during that period, and we received aid for just like 2 months. That's why most of the people died. It didn't take us that long. We used to make those long lines. You could make a line and they could give you 1 cup of maize flan, 1 cup of bean to survive a day. Because we didn't used to get that on a daily basis, but we could get aid like once or twice in a week. So when I looked in Uganda, when I joined a certain course and I became an activist, I said, no, I've been reporting into politics, political matters and other stuffs. But why is it we are lacking a gap in when it comes to activism? And I'm an activist. I have my friends right now, they're behind bars. They were in prison just because they came out and spoke about hip-hop. And you find out that if I also stay behind, these voices won't be heard. We have very many people here in Uganda. Me, I was once abducted just because I came out and speak. This is how I got to know that activism is dangerous, because of the power of digital tools that I used to use on my Twitter. We used to make stories and give out these stories to newspapers, but they could tell us that we are not going to publish that story. I said, it's okay, if this newspaper don't want to report anything about climate change, let me use my digital tools. Let me open up my Twitter pages. Let me use LinkedIn. Let me use anywhere. I want to push these voices. We have families affected by ECO. See, in my home district, they were not compensated, and the pipeline is ongoing. They are crying. Their plantations were almost destroyed. But trust me, our television and radio stations are government owned, and they don't want those stories to come out. So I think some of the reason that inspired me to use my digital tools, it's because I realized that in Uganda, when you try to speak, you're going to be silenced. And you won't have anywhere to put those voices. We have people who are trying.
Farida, I think we lost you.
In our country, dancing on streets.
I think we lost Farida, but it's a great story that she was sharing. Samuel, would you have an example of a campaign that went wrong for you, and what can we all learn from it?
We've been arrested, but trust me, fear social media because there is a huge pressure they do get from
Farida, can you hear me? I'm not even sure if it's my network or Farida's, but those are great insights that she has shared. Samuel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, how can we avoid performative advocacy and ensure that campaigns are rooted in real impact?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. So I'll frame it as basically like key strategies that one needs to consider for effective climate campaign, basically. And for me, I would say there are three. Yeah, I'll talk about localization, storytelling, and accessibility. Now, the first is that for localization, we need to understand that to run a successful campaign, it has to be tailored to local realities. Yeah, we're talking about, how are you able to use whether indigenous languages, relatable examples, and community-specific impact of climate change. Yeah. So, for example, I would say for the past 2-3 years, yeah, I've been actively involved in. Okay. So I would say for the past 2-3 years, I've been actively involved in the environmental degradation campaign in the Niger Delta. And as a storyteller, last year, 2 years ago, I had to go down to the community to actually experience the reality of the local people. And going there to experience the local reality, helps me to get a first-hand account of what is happening in the community. Yeah, though it was like a collaborative project I did with a couple of journalists in Nigeria, Europe, and US. Yeah, so it was actually an amazing experience, to talk to people, like maybe talk to farmers, talk to people who were fishermen or women, who have been actively involved in farming, and all of that have been impacted by the environmental degradation, whether in form of oil pollution, land pollution, or whatever that is happening. And so it gives me access to tell a direct story of what is happening, you understand, in the local community, because I was able to immerse myself, in experiencing it. Yeah, so that's the first account for me, if I would say. Then when you also talk about storytelling, like I was saying, there are some stories that.
Sorry, Samuel, to cut you short, but we're just wrapping up this session. So please, if you can try to be a bit brief. Thank you.
Okay. So basically, there are some stories that that needs to be framed around lived experiences, and that was basically why I need to go to those communities and just have first-hand experience of what is happening. In qualitative method, we call it ethnography. Yeah, you need to immerse yourself in the deep experience to understand what people are going through and all of that basically. And so lastly, I'll talk about the fact that when you talk about accessibility, trust is actually very essential. Yeah, because either as storytellers, as researchers, or advocates, we need to ensure that we are transparent, we are cultural sensitive, and we need to remain consistent so that we can be able to build credibility that we can use to promote climate action in those local communities. So I'll just stop there for now.
Thank you, Samuel, for sharing those insights. And before I let you go, there are some questions from the audience that I would like for you to answer. One is, where do you see the future? Sorry. What key advice would you offer to emerging climate activists striving to make a meaningful impact in their communities?
Yeah, I would say start small. Yeah, start small. You know, a lot of us at times like you know, because we are so passionate about telling stories, running campaigns and all of that, we want to start, you know, in a big way. But I believe you can actually start small. You don't need all the financial resources like you don't need all the financial resources to actually start, you know, to actually start campaign. You can start with as little as what you have, you know, in your local community. And once you can do that consistently, then from your local community, sorry, from a local community, your message can actually, you know, it can, should I say, go viral, or it can be able to like make the impact that is needed. But most importantly, when you want to start, just start small, because a lot of young people will want to start big, and that could be a problem. And personally, I've run into a lot of problem because, you know, I wanted to solve problem by starting big, and at the end of the day, I end up being in deep shit. So that's why I always advise to start small wherever you are.
Wow, thank you, Samuel. Elise, Doris, question from the audience, and this is Jamaldeen Busari. He's asking, what's the best way to localize climate change education, considering global diversity in language and weather patterns? How best can we construct climate change education to the simplest form that could be understood by people with different levels of education?
Right, thank you. I think, I think that it's important to be informed and to know the people that you would be working with or speaking to or collaborating with. So if you're going to work at a local level, you need to know what that community is like. What is their main language? How many languages do you need to cater to? And then you'll be able to structure your strategy around that. So if, for example, I remember when InfoCorp launched the ACAP, and we're trying to do what's it called again? We're trying to get information from like different communities and our national partners. So it sort of brought different stakeholders together from different parts of Africa. And you know how Africa is, there are different languages. So we had to cater to the different people. So we have a designated translation team who would be there just in case, maybe with whatever platform that we're using. If we're having the meetings online, like on Zoom, obviously there's a translation feature on Zoom, but if that doesn't work out, there are always people standby to be able to translate whatever language that would be. So we're tailoring our messaging to the different people in that group without being stifled by language barriers. So that shouldn't be a problem, especially in 2025. There are so many different ways we can be able to tackle that, and with the rise of AI as well. So everything has been made quite simple and, you know, easy to streamline. So if we take all these things into account, I think the first thing to do is to know your audience. It's always very important to know who you are catering to, and then you'll be able to decide how you're going to do that and put strategies in place to be able to effect that. So I think knowing that is the most important thing to do. It's always good to be informed.
Wow, thank you for such an comprehensive answer, Elise Doris. Now, I'll just open the platform to our audience. So whoever would like to raise a question, they can raise their hand, and then we can allow them to raise their question.
Thank you so much. So mine is not really a question, but it's just in addition to the previous answer for the question that was just asked. I just wanted to say that it's also important to, in addition to knowing your audience, indigenous knowledge systems are very important So we as advocates, we have this thing that we get into our community. We get into our community and we feed the community with what we have and what we know about climate. But get into the community, ask them what they know, because climate change has been there for longer than longer than most people actually think. So people have adopted things that help them to cope with climate change. So what are they using? What are they doing at the moment? So if what makes people resistant, what makes communities resistant is when you just come in with whatever you have and try and shove it into their community and try and feed it to them without actually trying to integrate what they're doing and what you have and what you're coming with. So I think the ability to just integrate indigenous knowledge systems and whatever it is that we have and whatever it is that we're bringing to the communities, it's very important. So yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you so much for that addition, Celine. Is there anyone else who has a question?
Yes, please. I'm raising my hand.
Yes. Okay, you can go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful session. So I'm also a storyteller. I'm very interested in that. And so my question is, how do you build trust with the community, especially when you are not a member of the community? Sometimes it's difficult when you come, because of things that are happening. Sometimes they feel like, oh, this person is here to stop us from doing activities, or this person has nothing good for us. Or maybe if you come once, you come twice, the next time they'll be like, why are you always disturbing our peace? What do you have for us? We have not seen any changes. We have not seen anyone coming. So how do you build that trust with the community so that they'll be able to, give you the full story of what's happening? Thank you.
Thank you, Panan, for that question. Farida, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Great. Please take on that question.
Thank you so much. Maybe I would say we have to collaborate with different organizations, because to be faithful is like activism. You can't do it alone. I'll give an example here in Uganda. When I'm into Stop Eco campaign and I want to go to Zimbabwe, because those people don't know me, but I do collaborate with some organizations that are already known. So you build partnership with some people who connect you to these other people you're going to find in the local communities. It is really hard to go alone, but if you collaborate with others already on the ground.
Farida, we are losing you. But I think she was trying to emphasize on the importance of partnerships and collaborations, just as our keynote speakers had mentioned. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question?
Yes. I want to know, how do you overcome issues to do with a chaotic political environment? Let's say, for example, something is happening in the country. I can give an example. In Uganda, there was a time they shut down the internet. How do you deal with such situations whereby, because the main backbone of advocacy is internet access, and I felt we have not talked much about it. Internet access. So so in a situation whereby the political atmosphere is not conducive, like the example I gave in Uganda, then we have a recent example in Tanzania. They shut down Twitter. Probably it's your main tool of advocacy. How do you deal with such issues?
Thank you, Clivet, for that question. Samuel, would you want to take that up? Samuel, are you here with us?
Sorry, I was muted. So I would say that I understand that internet access is actually very important when it comes to digital advocacy, and in a situation whereby there is no internet access, what do you do in that kind of situation? It's a dicey question, though. Yeah, it's a dicey question. But what I would suggest is that as a storyteller, it's possible that, let's say, maybe for the main time, you collect your stories together. You know, you collect your stories together, maybe temporarily. When there's internet access, then you can be able to like share your story. Yeah, that's what I would say. Most importantly, you gave an example of the Twitter ban that happened. Like, if people are unable to access Twitter, there are other platforms that are available that people can access. Facebook is there, Instagram is there. We have Snapchat, we have TikToks. There are other medium you can actually use. Depending on the context of what is happening, especially like a total shutdown of internet. I wanted to say, like, if there's a shutdown of internet, like I wanted to say use VPN, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, VPN might not work because like there's a total shutdown of internet. Yeah, but in the case of, let's say, for instance, maybe for your specific country, you cannot access, a specific, social media account, yeah, VPN at times can be, but it depends on the context of the law, the regulations, that is surrounded out in your country. Yeah, just depending on the context. Yeah, but most time, I feel like storytelling is actually a process. Yeah, it's a process. If there's no means to tell a story now, you could even go local, like you could use radios, depending on if those radios are, because I understand that they're actually media stations that are owned by government, and it might be difficult to actually want to, like, tell some of those stories and all of that. But at the same time, you just need to like figure out something that works best based on where you are to be able to like tell a story, no matter the issues around internet access and all. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Samuel, for making that brief. And I think that marks the close of our session today. The time has really gone. Thank you so much, Elite Stories, Samuel and Farida, for sharing such in-depth insights with us, and also to our audience for making this so engaging. For those questions that